Howdy folks, I'm hurried hobo mock skipper, hastily hobnobbing with hedonistic hogs.
I'm Amber.
And here are more hedonistic hogs for us to hobnob with, like one does. You can find them on the corner talking. I don't know. And folks, if this is your first time viewing, or you're a new viewer, welcome. This is a show where we teach you how to swim for 20 minutes, and after that, you're on your own.
We do not teach anyone how to swim. This is not swimming advice.
Let's get started. Alright folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Getting My Apartment Complex to Have an Adults-Only Day at the Apartment Pool? I live in a military town and my apartment complex is pretty close to the base. As a result of this, my complex is 90% young singles or young families. I'm a 25-year-old female and I work as a nurse and I live alone at my apartment complex. I get stuck inside so much at work, so I cherish my outside time. I like to sit on the lounges by my apartment pool and read books. Well, a few weeks ago I was reading by the pool and some kid with a water gun came up to me and sprayed my book beyond repair. The mom was apologetic but didn't offer to replace my book, and I immediately went to the office and I reported them. The whole family got a 1-month ban from using the pool for breaking its rules, and the mom was furious with me. The pool has a really extensive usage agreement that everyone has to assign, detailing behaviors not allowed, mostly due to bad kids and a creepy guy that used to live here, but that's a whole nother story. Well, anyways, I asked the office lady if there was any hours where the kids weren't allowed, or if they would consider making an adult-only pool day. I was honestly exhausted because there are so many badly behaved kids at the apartment pool. Most of these depend-upon-uses are terrible at disciplining their children where I live. But maybe it's just a Gen Z thing in general, to be honest. I would probably be bad at parenting as well, which is why I don't have kids. I'm too soft and I don't like telling anyone what to do. She said it was a good suggestion, and if I started a petition, the owner of the complex would probably approve. Well, I did, and I got 150 signatures. I posted it on the door to the mailroom. It was approved that no children were allowed on Sundays. So many women are complaining on the Facebook Complex's Facebook page about it. But I've been this past Sunday, and y'all, it was so peaceful. No screaming kids, no water guns, no crying, and I could even get into the pool. I don't think 1 day out of 7 days per week is super unreasonable, and a ton of other people agreed, so am I the jerk? Alright folks, what do you think?
No, I don't think Opie's a jerk for wanting an adults-only pool and putting it to getting a petition going. It seems like this is something that resonated with a lot of people if she could get 150 signatures.
Yeah.
And I understand that it's frustrating for the parents to not be able to use the pool on a Sunday, but at the same time, it seems like they were not properly monitoring their kids. You know, I know that kids sometimes do things that are not very nice as they are learning, but that's where you need to step in. Like if your kid destroys something, it's on you to replace it. And like to take that water gun away and never let them have one again, you know, like it seems like she was just like, oh, sorry, he does these things, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like OP probably wouldn't have even reported them to the office potentially if she'd actually taken like some kind of measures to ensure that their kid wasn't going to be a menace. And I mean, adults should be able to use the pool just as much as kids. And the thing about kids is that they get out of school earlier than adults get out of work, and they also have fewer responsibilities. So they're going to be able to use the pool more often, and we're coming up to summertime as well, and kids get a lot of time off during the summer, where adults, they don't quite get that same amount of time off. And so I can understand, like, some people might be upset that, you know, they took Sunday, which is one of the days off per week of, you know, parents, but, you know, kids, they get more time off than, you know, adults in general. So I don't know. I think it kind of works out well in the end anyways. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And OpenBug4251 says, At first I was prepared to say not the jerk, but honestly, you aren't using the pool, you're using a chair. It's not fair to expect your things to stay dry near a pool, and you shouldn't bring books near water if you want them to stay in good shape. If you want to sit outside and read, go to the park. You're the jerk for taking the pool time away from people and then not actually using the pool. And OP replies, If someone jumped in the pool and a few drops of water got on me, I wouldn't fuss. To walk up to me with a water gun and point it at my book and spray until the book is destroyed beyond repair is a jerk move. And I'm not negotiating on that. The kid was definitely old enough to know better. What do you think of that comment?
Yeah, I think the commenter is totally missing the mark here. First of all, the area around the pool is still for public use. But secondly, just because you're near a pool does not mean you consent to getting wet.
Yeah.
And like Opie said, there's a big difference between, a kid jumping in a little too hard and accidentally splashing someone and full on spraying a water gun at someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a huge difference between those two things. And also, this person kind of neglected to realize that OP actually got into the pool this Sunday. They were actually able to. So it kind of tells me that maybe the pool is crowded with children on Sundays and they, don't feel comfortable or feel like they can actually go into the pool. And, I think that OP kind of proves that they do use the pool and do want to use it, right?
But I also want and I'm not just to kind of emphasize an earlier point is I think it is totally fine to just want to sit and lounge at a pool because if you go to the park in your bikini, people are probably going to give you funny looks.
Yeah.
If you just want to sit out, tanning isn't great, but sit out enjoying the sun with your sunscreen on and having a good time, there's nothing wrong with that, and you should be able to do that without having to worry about kids blasting you with water guns.
And I Cross the Road says, was your book of value? Taking a weekend day is not cool. And another is not a word. Don't have kids. And OP replies, it doesn't matter if my book was valuable. It was my book, and the kids don't have a right to destroy it. I agree with OP here. I don't think that this person is arguing in good faith. Plus, they're picking at OP's use of words.
Right.
And Ouija board says, not the jerk. 1 day a week for just adults sounds wonderful. And clearly, you aren't the only person who wants it. It's one thing to get annoyed with kids just existing in the pool versus getting annoyed with a kid being a terror, which is the case here. Amenities aren't just for kids either, they're for everyone. And OP replies, I don't hate kids and I don't mind being around kids. A lot of my friends have kids, but the kids here are truly awful. That was not the first time that a kid decided to soak me with a water gun. Just my first time that my book got ruined. Alright folks, and our next letter is titled, I laughed in my dad's face after my mom turned down his marriage proposal. Something important before I start is that I'm a 27-year-old male and my parents have never been married. My paternal grandfather married my grandmother after she got pregnant with his first son, my dad. And when the second baby came, he found out that it wasn't his, but couldn't divorce her because our family was extremely religious. Not anymore. And divorce would not be on the table for him since it would mean all of his family would cut him off. And he stayed with her until she passed away. Well, my dad saw how unhappy his father was and how it affected his own life and his half-siblings too, and decided that he wouldn't marry until he had 2 kids of his own blood with his girlfriend. To be fair, he did talk with my mom about it, and initially she was okay with it since she understood how it impacted him. I honestly somehow do too, but it still seemed unfair to my mom. But as a kid, I didn't understand at the time, and as a teenager, I didn't feel right to butt in or say anything. Well, my parents had me and were happy, but there was no marriage plans yet. But that was fine. They just needed to have another child. So they tried for years and years and years, and now here we are. His only son is almost in his 30s, and they are still not married. My mom had fertility issues, but she wasn't infertile. They attempted to get pregnant for many years despite the difficulties, but they never could. My mom suggested to go for adoption, but it didn't align with my dad's self-imposed rule of having 2 biological children with his partner to marry, so he declined. Well, they eventually stopped trying and seemed okay together, but my mom constantly asked to get married since they were together since high school, but my dad did not want to do it because he wanted to marry after having 2 children, which was now off the table, so eventually my mom gave up and stopped asking. With that said, there was never an issue out of it that affected me directly until a few years ago. See, as I'm an only child, my parents kind of expected me to give them a grandchild. And when my parents, or should I say my dad, decided to stop trying for another baby, they agreed that they would marry when I have my own child. I didn't know until 2 years ago, because a few years ago I came out as gay, and evidently I won't be having any biological kids. I don't discard the possibility of adoption, but it's not in my plans, and my dad wanted a biological grandson. So, unintentionally, I destroyed the last hope of them helping raise my child to finally get married. Although I know it's not my fault, but my dad's ridiculous norm that he had for himself. So I don't feel one bit guilty or any remorse. Well, at this point, my mom doesn't even care about marriage anymore. She's 58, and even before I revealed that I was gay, she didn't think that she would ever get married to my dad because of how much he seemed to have in his requirements to compromise. Well, a few days ago, my parents, two of my aunts, and my uncle, my dad's half-brother, and me were celebrating my mom's birthday, and she was having a nice time. She was smiling a lot, and we were giving her our gifts for her to open on the spot. When it was my dad's turn, it was one of the first gifts. She opened it, and it was a small box. No, it wasn't a ring box. It was the size of a necklace box, so it wasn't obvious at the moment. And when she opened it, there was a piece of paper in it that says, "Would you marry me?" She turned to my dad, who was getting onto one knee, taking out an engagement ring from his pocket, and waiting for my mom's response, who was looking at him with a strange look. It almost made me laugh by how serious she was. She looked at him, then at my family, who were visibly more shocked than her. I too, but I just kind of stared blankly. So apparently no one other than my dad knew about his proposal plans. And she just said, let's not spoil the moment right now. Let me open the rest of the gifts. My dad was apparently shocked by how indifferent my mom was and sat down without saying anything while my mom went back to cheerfully opening the rest of her gifts. And the rest of the family was also enthusiastic about it. Maybe a bit too excessively, but I guess it was a way of avoiding thinking about the moment that had just happened. And after enjoying the meal, we all went to our homes. Well, that was 2 days ago. And today my dad asked me if he could come to my home, and I said yes. I thought that he was going to vent about what happened at my mother's birthday, and I was totally right. He cried a bit, stating how he had planned to propose to my mom after thinking about it a lot, and that he was now ready, and that he wanted to spend the rest of his life with her, and that he couldn't believe that she humiliated him like that in front of the whole family, and that the whole time I had to keep a straight face. But it was so difficult because of my dad's nonsense until he said his last phrase, and then I couldn't hold back anymore and I started laughing my butt off. Obviously he had got mad and asked me what I was making fun of him for. I don't hate my dad, but I was a little too mean to him, and I said a lot of stuff that I didn't say as a teenager and even as an adult because it wasn't my business how they handled their relationship. To summarize, I told him something like, "I don't know what you expected after leaving my mom waiting for almost 40 years to propose. You didn't need to wait for her to get pregnant again just because you had that old mother as a cheater. Or did you think my mom was a cheater as well? If she was a cheater, why did you stay? If you knew she wasn't, what was the point of that stupid goal of having 2 children to prove that she wasn't having an affair?" And I kept going off on him for like 40 minutes. He was so shocked. I've raised my voice to him since I have never done that to anyone. He stayed quiet the whole time I was ranting. When I finished, he just avoided looking at me and simply apologized. I gave him some coffee before he left so that he would calm down and possibly talk to my mom. I think that they will get married, but I was so annoyed that he decided to do it at the worst possible moment, in the worst place, in front of everyone, and then complain that he felt humiliated as if my mom wasn't waiting for him for decades for him to not even consider marriage until they got old. Brah. I just wanted to rant. Sorry for the long text. All right, folks, what do you think?
I mean, I think Opie handled it fine. I mean, I think Opie said things that needed to be said. You know, the dad was so full of himself that he couldn't see anyone else's perspective in all of this. That it came as such a surprise to him, you know, is very telling. I mean, first of all, proposing on someone's birthday is generally a no-no anyway, because it recenters the day about them onto now all of a sudden you in the relationship. And then secondly, public proposals. You don't propose in public unless you are prepared to receive a public rejection. And I think the mom handled it spectacularly. Yeah, this whole like the way like he knew she was struggling with infertility, and instead of being like, okay, we can get married, he made this, oh nope, you have to follow by my game, like play by my rules forever, even if this means we can never get married until I decide we're ready to get
Yeah,
married.
yeah. So instead of going to therapy
Yeah.
and working out this problem that he had, he made this his wife's problem.
Mm-hmm.
And now he doesn't understand why she doesn't want this big public proposal or anything like that, right?
Well, and like at a certain point in time, like how would OP having a biological child prove that OP's mom wasn't cheating? Like this
Yeah,
lost its relevance a long time ago
yeah.
and just became a carrot he could hold over her head.
Or, just an arbitrary marker to like make some kind of point. Like it feels like he just wanted to like execute on his like goal or whatever it was. And it's just the goal should have been a happy marriage
Mm-hmm.
or a happy relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you that he was kind of treating this like a carrot the whole time. And when it didn't work as a carrot anymore, he got upset about it. But yeah, this is why he probably should have gone to therapy years ago.
Yeah.
But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for refusing to speak to my brother's fiancée after revealing her parenting methods? My brother Tom, a 34-year-old male, recently got engaged to Melissa, a 32-year-old female, who has a 6-year-old son, Dylan. Changed names. Last weekend, I, a 29-year-old female, was babysitting Dylan while they went out for dinner. Dylan was playing with some toys when he accidentally broke a glass figurine. He immediately started crying and said, "Please don't tell my mom. She'll give me the quiet time." I asked what quiet time meant, and Dylan explained that when he misbehaves, Melissa makes him kneel facing the wall for an hour, sometimes longer if he cries or moves. If he speaks, she adds more time. This shocked me, but I kept calm and I told him that accidents happen. When Tom and Melissa returned, I told Tom privately what Dylan had shared. Tom defended her, saying that I don't understand parenting and that Dylan is dramatic. He claimed that it was just a timeout and I'm overreacting. I later confronted Melissa directly, telling her that I thought her quiet time punishment was excessive and potentially abusive. She completely flipped out, saying that I had no right to question her parenting when I don't have kids. She accused me of trying to sabotage the relationship and twisting a child's words. Now my entire family is divided. My parents think that I should apologize for overstepping, while my sister agrees with me that the punishment sounds problematic. Tom is demanding that I apologize to Melissa before their wedding. I refuse to apologize for speaking up about something that seems wrong to me. Making a child kneel silently for extended periods of time doesn't seem like an appropriate discipline. But now I'm uninvited from their wedding and causing family drama. Am I a jerk for refusing to let this go and apologize? All right, folks, what do you think?
Not the jerk, but please report this to Child Protective Services.
Yeah.
What she is doing is abuse. It is one thing for kids to have
torture.
Yeah, like it is perfectly okay for kids to have some kind of consequence when they misbehave. A kid accidentally breaking a figurine while playing and being so terrified that he's like, "Please, I'm so sorry, like don't give me quiet time." Like he's already very traumatized by what she's been doing. This is deeply emotionally scarring to him. And the fact that the rest of the family, so much of the family is just trying to smooth things over, no. This is the time to stand up for this kid and, make sure that he doesn't have to keep undergoing this abuse.
This is a really terrible situation for this child. Now, kneeling for that long, for an hour, for an adult on its own is a hard thing, right? And unless the floors are exceptionally well padded, which I'm not guessing they are because the kid doesn't seem very happy about this situation, then that's going to be really painful on the knees and legs, right? And that's just not how does the punishment fit the crime here, right?
Well, it doesn't teach them, because ideally with consequences there should be some kind of like lesson in there, or sometimes you do just need to to separate the kids so they stop hitting each other. But a lot of times, ideally, if the goal was to teach the kid to be more careful around the toys, having them kneel, it just seems like it's more about power and control, and you are going to bend to my will, and if you don't behave as I want you to, I'm just going to torture you until you can't even think of stepping out of line.
Yeah. I mean, this kid is terrified of doing anything wrong that's going to earn him this kind of punishment. And I don't think that's going to make a healthy or happy child, right?
Mm-mm.
And that's certainly going to create a lot of resentment for him in the future when he grows up.
And like, I also want to push back on the mom's assertion that, well, you can't judge because you don't have kids. You don't have to be a parent to recognize abuse.
Yeah.
And people sometimes use that line to justify really abhorrent behavior
Mm-hmm.
as if anyone who had kids would be abusive. There are lots of people who parent who are able to do it without abusing their kids. Like, you can't just justify it by being like, oh, well, you don't have kids, you don't understand how it is.
Yeah. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber, she has a joke.
Where do little cups of oolong learn? Oh, who do little cups of oolong learn from?
Who do little cups of oolong learn from?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can tell you exactly who little cups of oolong learn from. And I'll tell you by this. So there was this little cup of oolong, and it was a little cracked and a little chipped, but that doesn't really matter for the story. That's a different story entirely. And it was going to school one day, and it missed the bus. And the bus driver didn't see the cup of oolong, and so the little cup of oolong had to hop its way to school. And this was a long, arduous journey, and they didn't want to tell their mom that they missed the bus because their mom, would be furious about this. So they just, chipped their way to the school, and then finally they arrived at school, and then they get into the classroom, and they're late, and their teacher says to them, "Why are you late?" And the little cup of oolong says, "Oh, it's because I missed my bus." And that's the punchline. That's the teacher.
Yeah, they learn from their teacher. And it's National Tea Day.
Oh, so I hope you have some tea for tea time. And I have some Mega Mint. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Manic Monday, folks. I hope your Monday is off to a great start. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance, and please have it on questionable parenting choices.
While it's important for kids to have consequences so they don't do things like spray people with water guns and ruin their books, you should not abuse your children.
Yeah, I think so. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.